Chapter 5. In this session we are talking about information clauses where we are asking questions, and also the difference between the verb wissen to know a fact and kennen to know a person. Now let's look at the information clauses first. We have a simple question. Wie viel Uhr ist es? What time is it? Now when we are tourists, we would approach a person and we would ask them more politely. We wouldn't come out with a straight question, wie viel Uhr ist es? We would say, do you know what time it is? We would even say that to our friends. We would say, do you know what time it is? So we would say, weißt du? And then what happens when we put a weißt du in front? Wie viel Uhr es ist? Now the wie viel here acts like a subordinating conjunction and the verb has to go to the end. So wie viel Uhr ist es? Straight question. A more subtle way of asking, weißt du, wie viel Uhr es ist? And when we use that, then the verb has to go to the end. Instead of saying, wo ist der Park? We say more politely, do you know where the park is? When we see kids running around playing, we would say, weißt du, wo der Park ist? Do you know where the park is? And again, the ist has to go to the end when we ask the more polite and formal way. Weißt du, wo der Park ist? Now let's see, when we address an adult, we wouldn't use the du form, we would use the polite form. Ist das ein Fußballspiel? We would say, do you know whether this is a soccer game? Wissen Sie, we cannot just say wissen Sie, ist das ein Fußballspiel? Here we have to add another subordinating conjunction. Wissen Sie, ob, and ob means whether. Wissen Sie, ob das ein Fußballspiel ist? And again, the original verb goes to the end of the sentence. So, ist das ein Fußballspiel? Is that a soccer game? Do you know, add a conjunction, ob das ein Fußballspiel ist? Just like in English, we couldn't say, do you know, is that a soccer game? Nobody would say that. You would say, do you know whether this is a soccer game? All right. So this is when we use information clauses and we precede them with a more polite way of asking. Do you know? Now let's look at the verb wissen. Wissen means to know a fact, like 1 and 1 is 2, that's a fact, right? As far as we know. Or when it rains, the sky is gray. You know that, that's a fact. So wissen is the infinitive form. Now when you look at it, when we conjugate it, it changes. Ich weiß, du weißt, weiß. So we have to remember the E changes to EI and we have the SZ at the end. Ich weiß, no ending for ich, no ending for SES. The do form gets its T ending S before. Now when we go to the plural, just like all irregular verbs, or most of them, they go back to the basic form, wir wissen, ihr wisst, und Sie wissen. So again, it's just a way of memorizing it in order to know the conjugation of the verb wissen. Now, how can you use it? You can say, ich weiß nichts. You have an exam and you panic and all of a sudden all the information goes out of your head and you say, ich weiß nichts. I don't know anything. But then there are other people, they always know everything, right? Ich weiß alles. I know everything. Or we can use it in a sentence. We can say, I know, ich weiß that. I know that. Ich weiß das. And remember that subordinating conjunction das with 2 S's. Ich weiß, dass, for example, let's do a math problem. 5 plus 5, 10 ist. I know that 5 plus 5 is 10. Verb at the end, right? That's a fact. You know a fact. Or you know how somebody, you know somebody's name, for example. Yeah, it's a Ich weiß, it's a fact to information. Ich weiß, wie die Frau heißt. I know what that woman is called. Or you know, wie die Frau heißt. Or you know where a building is, right? You can say, ich weiß, wo die Kirche ist. For example, you know where the church is. Ich weiß, wo die Kirche ist. This is factual information. And that's when we use a conjugation of the verb wissen. The verb kennen talks about knowing a person or a thing. So you say, ich kenne deinen Bruder. I know your brother. Or you can say, do you know Berlin? Kennst du Berlin? Berlin is a thing here now, right? So this is the difference. Wissen, to know a fact. Kennen, to know a person. Kennen is a completely regular verb, regular conjugation, nothing to worry about, except for the meaning. And the important thing is to remember, wissen, know a fact. Kennen, know a person or a thing.